Well, hey there. Welcome into the Rant, everybody. Kate McFarland alongside the Tulsa World's Bill Haston. It is 14-14 Minnesota and Green Bay at the half. Missed kick there. Thanks, Dan Bailey had made it, and then there was an procedure call. Yep. I'm trying to stall so that we get our Facebook Live people in because this rant, it remains to be seen how we do, but the content, what we have to talk about, as good as we've had all year long. We'll have OU stuff that's good, OSU stuff that's good, TU finishing on a win, some coaching rumors. We'll start with OU. Three-pronged attack here, Bill. We're going to talk about West Virginia. We're going to talk about the rematch with Texas. We're going to talk about the potential of OU versus Ohio State, the epic rhetoric battle that will be for maybe potentially the final college football playoff spot. Kind of quickly, your thoughts on that 59-56 win over the Mountaineers Friday night that puts OU into the Big 12 championship game. The defense did come up with 2 scores,
no doubt.
Gave up more than 700 yards, but Marquise Brown and Kyler Murray, they got me believing they're just not stoppable, really.
Right. Well, I'm glad to see Marquise. You know, it's interesting, too, because an ankle sprain typically lingers for a while.
Right.
And he hasn't missed any game time.
Yep.
So, obviously, they're doing a good job of getting him treated in between games. And
he looks healthy now.
He looks bouncy and fast again. He looks like his old self.
Did you know Antonio Brown was his cousin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was a revelation to me. And then he's there in the purple jumpsuit, and the whole thing was fantastic. But I had no idea.
Just look at Marquise's Twitter activity. He and Antonio go back and forth quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, there you go. That's on me.
You know, but you know, in a 59-56 game, you get 2 scoop and score touchdowns from the defense.
Really, really big.
Well,
difference making.
It was the difference makers for the ball game, and you know, I mean, by standards of this particular defense, that is as good as you can hope for. Is to get takeaways that change the game, and the Bolton touchdown late was. And on both occasions, too, it gave OU a 2-score advantage, which in this ping-pong match of a football game was critically essential.
Couple of things for me. One, I did some diving into the takeaways for OU this year. Coming into this game, there had only been 8. One of them was on special teams. There's Antonio Brown. So only 7 defensive takeaways. Not a single one had occurred in the first half of a ball game.
Wow.
Well, they got one in the first half, and it went for a touchdown. And then they got a big one in the second half as well. Sometimes these things come in bunches. That might bode well. Remember, Caleb Kelly had a scoop and score in last year's Big 12 championship game. They may need something like that against Texas if they're not on their P's and Q's, and if that Texas game plan is as good as it was in Dallas earlier this year. The other thing that I take from this, and then spinning it forward to next week, OU's just been here and done this so much. So many of these guys have been in big November games like this where you're playing for a Big 12 title, where you're playing for a spot in the college football playoff. They do this every year. They expect it. They know what it feels like. I really like OU in that matchup versus Texas. It's going to be brand new for those Longhorns.
You know, except for a couple of fifth-year guys in the OU program, everybody in the program otherwise, Caden, has never known anything but Big 12 championships in Norman. So, I mean, that's what they are conditioned to know and strive for. That's the culture of that program is championships. And I watched Texas intently on Friday, expecting Texas, even though Texas has been knocked off out of the playoff conversation, but I thought Texas would come out and really kind of make a statement to itself. You know what I mean? I mean, this is, granted, I mean, all they needed to do was win by 1 point, and they go to Dallas. But I thought they would really want to play well, make a statement, hammer KU, and go into Dallas with a ton of momentum. And here, Texas flattened out in the second half at KU. Let Kansas get in a position where they're onside kicking it to try to get the football back to tie that game. So I thought Texas, you know, Texas didn't lose the game at Kansas, but Texas didn't do itself any favors.
No, I told,
in regard to momentum,
I told an Austin reporter on the day of the OU-Texas game back in October, we were on the sideline, and I said, you know, this Texas team reminds me a lot of what I've seen from Notre Dame in the Brian Kelly era, where they're good enough to go give anybody in the country a hard time on any given week, But if they don't bring their A game, they can lose to a whole lot of people.
Right.
You know, OU, there aren't that many Big 12 teams that can jump up and get OU, even if they're playing, let's say, just their C or B game. Texas is a team where, yeah, you can struggle with Kansas or anybody else in the Big 12 if you don't really bring it. That said, don't you expect them to bring it? Tom Herman's been pretty good in big games. He's been good against OU. I don't know if Texas's A game will be enough in this ball game, but I do expect them to play really close to their very best.
I was reminded again on Friday too that from a team speed standpoint, OU's got about a 2.5 to 1 edge on Texas on the whole. I mean,
OU's offense is unlike anybody else. Now I don't know that I give their defense much credit. I mean, they may have fast guys, but they can't tackle. So what good does it do?
I'll back it up.
But offensively, have you ever seen an offense faster than OU's?
No.
I mean, Kyler Murray, Marquise Brown, I haven't seen speed like that.
Yeah, I should clarify
That's
that.
unreal.
Among the guys who catch the football, run with it, playmakers, OU's speed is strikingly
and then
beyond
the O-line
Texas.
Is so strong to give those guys space. You know, I mean, that's the deadly combination. Is that OU's offensive line is maybe the very best in the country.
Right.
And then you have Kyler Murray, who's a dual threat unlike maybe we've ever seen. I mean, yeah, people make the Mike Vick comparison. Imagine Mike Vick with Lincoln Riley calling plays for him. I mean, we've never seen a combo quite this lethal in my opinion.
Imagine Michael Vick with Kyler Murray's arm.
Well, no, good point. That's right. The same accuracy. That'd be something. Okay. We're looking at earlier this year. The sights and sounds are so familiar. The corn dogs.
I still can't believe it. After all this time,
I still can't believe it. And now we get for the first time since 1903, we've got a rematch. Who knew that there were rematches back at the turn of the century? I didn't.
Right.
But now we're going to have this thing not split at the 50, but split in the end zone like we always do for bowl games. It's going to be a different setting in Arlington. We expect. Probably not will it be a sellout, you think? Will they get to that point? It'll be close. It's a big house.
It is.
Last minute. But, I mean, it's going to be close. It's going to be full. It's going to be close to 50-50. I mean, what do we – 11 a.m., just like this. I mean, what do we expect? I mean, how fired up are we for this? This is what we all wanted.
Seating capacity for this in this ballpark, the seating capacity, actual seats, is about 80,000. Now, if you want to,
it can go up to. It was 100 on Thanksgiving Day when Jerry opens
you can
up
put 100 if you want. If you include the people standing around, standing room only type, you can go well beyond 80. But I would think there'll be 80,000 people there. Absolutely.
Don't you think it'll feel a lot different though, because that's such an event. It's something people plan for. You know, you have. I wonder what it's gonna. I wonder what it's gonna look like and feel like. Will it feel just like OU Texas always does, or is it gonna be a little bit different?
No, it'll feel different. It won't have the same event feel. It'll have a different event feel.
But they're also playing for more in some ways. Which,
right.
I mean, certainly OU is. I've seen between 5.5-point favorite and 9-point favorite.
I've seen 5.5.
Okay, well, and I have seen.
But it's going to go up.
If you were the odds maker, where would you have set this? I would have put it above 5.5. I really think OU has a.
No, I would put it beyond a touchdown.
Yeah.
7.5, 8.5, something like that.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I expect OU to cover even that. I just think the defense is due. I mean, fool me once, fool me twice, fool me 5 times. If they give up 40+ again, Bill,
you're asking me
to do that 5 straight games going into the postseason.
You're asking me to believe that Sam Ehlinger can beat. All right. The only game Kyler Murray's ever lost was that one. And so you're going to ask me to believe that Sam Ehlinger is going to beat Kyler Murray again. I don't see that.
Yeah.
But
they had such a good plan the first time. They were the tougher team in the trenches, at least their defense versus excuse me, the other way around. Texas's offense versus the OU defense. You know, they just have to keep scoring to put some incredible pressure on OU because, you know, Kyler Murray turned it over twice in that first game. You know, it's not like you can count on that sort of thing, but when the guy feels like he has to score every time, may take some chances he shouldn't take. Turned it over a couple times against West Virginia.
Keep in mind, too, that Sam Ehlinger for 3 weeks has had a really tender throwing shoulder.
Good point.
So he's one play away from watching from the sideline.
I have respect for the rivalry. I have respect for Tom Herman. I even have respect for Sam Ehlinger, even if he's not 100%. But I cannot possibly pick against Kyler Murray, this OU offense. Murray seemed to take it personally. That was something I wasn't expecting in the wake of that Texas loss. I mean, he wasn't crying, but afterwards he was clearly emotional about the 2 times he had turned it over, feeling like he really played a part in OU not being able to win that day, a game that they felt they could and should win. To me, this guy is going to bring his very best. He's going to be at an emotional peak. It's going to be hard to beat OU Saturday in Arlington.
Yeah, he goes back to the Metroplex, which is his home turf.
Yep.
For a revenge game against the one team that's ever beaten him.
Hated rival. I mean, they were his dad's hated rival. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is good stuff, Bill.
All right.
This is good stuff.
But then the other layers of consideration include that there's a style points factor at work here too, because from a team standpoint,
the defense needs to look good.
You're trying to dazzle the committee, and from an individual standpoint, Kyler's trying to win the Heisman.
Yep.
And the voting for the Heisman.
And Tua had such a good day in the Iron Bowl. You can't control what he does, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Kyler's got to be spectacular if he's going to win the Heisman. No
Furthermore, as OU gets closer to the finish line of the season, whatever that might look like at the finish, whether it's in New Orleans or in the playoff, I don't know. But I think that maybe Lincoln might be more willing to dial Kyler's number and design run plays.
Yeah. They did the long one in the first quarter against West Virginia. That was clearly called. That was not a scramble.
Right. You know, a lot more than he was at this point in the season that we're looking at, because he still had a half season left.
That's right. And this long one that we're looking at right now came in the fourth quarter when they needed it.
Oh, no doubt.
I think you're right. Look for something like that early. Look for them to get something like that early. And he's just so dynamic. You mentioned style points, and that leads into the next consideration. This will probably be a 2-week war of words on Twitter and ESPN and lots of other places. OU versus Ohio State potentially for that final spot in the college football playoff. If Alabama beats Georgia, Clemson beats Pittsburgh, Notre Dame we assume is already in, it likely comes down to these 2 teams if they're able to win on Saturday. You look at the tail of the tape. You know, I've fought a little bit with people that I would consider OU homers on Twitter this week just to try and say it's really, really close, guys. They both have dynamic offenses. You see some of the numbers here. Both outscore their opponents by about 17 per game. Both outgain their opponents by about 140 games. So it's really, really close. The best wins, well, that goes to Ohio State. They beat number 8 Michigan as of today in the AP poll, beat number 14 Penn State. Best wins for OU, you got West Virginia at 15, and then Iowa State generously ranked at 24. But, of course, the best loss, if you will, goes to OU, or the worst loss certainly goes to Ohio State, losing by 29 to Purdue. I mean, this is going to be close. And you know, ESPN with some of their metrics has Ohio State as a slight favorite in what really is kind of a coin toss. I mean, your thoughts? Do you have an early pick here with regard to who has the edge, or let's say just who do you think should be in the playoff if it comes down to these 2?
Well, I remember driving back from OU TCU and listening on satellite radio to Purdue kick Ohio State's head off that night. Just dominated the game, and that's a terrible loss. Ohio State got lapped in that ball game. So OU gets beat on essentially a walk-off field goal in the Cotton Bowl.
And they can avenge that loss Saturday.
Right. And then
that does matter.
Okay, so there's the constant narrative about Big 12 defense.
Yes.
And you know, the imbalance in the Big 12.
The crazy thing is, Ohio State's is usually great, and it's not. Ohio State's defense looks a lot like OU's has the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Not as bad as this year's version, but they look a lot like those Mike Stoops defenses of 2016 and 17.
Well, I'm just saying that, you know, it might help, maybe a tiny bit, could help OU's cause if the committee members are paying attention and see that the renowned Michigan defense gave up 62, and that maybe if they just look around and see that there are 13 teams in FBS averaging at least 40 points a game, and that that's become kind of a common number. In fact, 40. I mean, OU's leading the country at 50 and a half points a game.
I don't think there's any denying that even though Ohio State's defense is nothing spectacular, it's better than OU's. You trust it more than you trust OU's defense. I mean, it gave up 40 to Kansas, for crying out loud. But there's also no denying that nobody in the country is as good as this OU offense. I mean, 9 yards per play. That's a full yard better than Alabama, which has been otherworldly.
Even it's a half yard beyond where they were last year.
And the point a lot of people have made, and this is now in the NFL as well, good defense doesn't always beat good offense these days. And so maybe, if you're talking about, if all other things are equal, if it's that close, maybe the tiebreaker should be one team has Kyler Murray and one doesn't.
Right. Well, yeah. And is there any sort of entertainment consideration in the room? Probably not. I mean, not a stated
Ohio State
one.
Brings such big numbers TV-wise.
I'm talking. Are you talking competitive? I'm talking about the best player in the country. Entertainment. I'm talking about the guy who.
That's a wash. I think Ohio State's offense is so good, and they bring so many eyeballs to the set. I'd be surprised if that matters to the committee. Now, if they think Kyler Murray gives OU a better shot at dealing with Bama than Ohio State, I could see that being a consideration. Kyler versus Tua, maybe. I mean, it's certainly interesting. I'm not going to say I'm not all in on the thing. I am. I'm all for Kyler v. Tua. I'm not sure the committee's going to concern itself with that. Maybe they will.
That would be, well, I mean, I don't.
Think of all the guys who have to recuse themselves. You got Joe C. on the committee. You got Ohio State's AD, and you got Frank Beamer, whose son is on staff at OU. I mean, everybody's going to have to leave the room.
I'm just saying, I mean, do they? Because it's undeniable that there are examples of first weekend matchups in the NCAA tournament when you know the committee's like, ooh, these teams had a great game 3 years ago, or these coaches have a long-standing feud, you know, and you can tell it's rigged to get certain matchups. Yeah. I mean, are you kidding me? You can have Bama versus OU.
Pretty good stuff.
Tagovailoa versus Murray.
Pretty good stuff.
One in the top 2 Heisman guys. I can talk about it all night, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a component in the selection. I don't know.
So for the record, I give OU a slight edge right now over Ohio State in that debate for me personally, and also what I think will happen with the committee. But I am telling you, it is just a slight edge, and I do think OU's defense needs to give them something to grasp onto. They've got to be good Saturday.
What time is the Big Ten game?
It's late. It's the nightcap.
It's prime time.
It's prime time Saturday.
So that gives the OU fans a chance to catch their breath, get a bite to eat, get a nap, and then stress all night about watching that one.
This is going to be a fantastic Saturday. All right, let's talk about Oklahoma State. It was not a fantastic Saturday for Mike Gundy and the Cowboys. Nope. I guess we should have seen this coming. This is what it's been all year long. The roller coaster ride finally comes to a stop at 6-6. They're 3-1 on the year against teams that are ranked, and they're 3-5 against everybody else. What a weird, wild year this was.
You know, they
were awful against TCU.
They were 6-6 4 years ago, and the OSU fans were out of their minds because, in the best possible way, they were out of their minds because that 6th win that year, they got it in Bedlam.
Yeah.
And they got them,
baby.
And then by extension, they took a big crowd to Arizona for the bowl game, and the whole Mason Rudolph era was launched, and it started a period of 3 straight 10-win seasons. You know, and so 6-6 4 years ago was hailed as a big deal, and especially because they weren't very good. But Rudolph saved that year. Now, this is a team with 9 or 10 win even talent. And you got 6 losses, and in 5 of the 6 losses you were favored. This is Gundy's worst season.
Yeah.
Because in 05 they lost 7 times, but they weren't very good yet. 14 they had a terrible offensive line and myriad issues and quarterback injuries, and they had a lot of there was a lot of reasons for that team being 6-6. This team this year, they haven't been gashed with injuries. I mean, you'd like to see Justice Hill get a full run from start to finish, and he hadn't gotten that.
And that was probably.
Otherwise, though, they've been fine. They've patched it. They've kept it together really well in regard to staying healthy. But I'm telling you, this team lacks character. This team lacks grind and grit. This team
is so un-Gundy-like.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? The fact that, I mean, if Gundy, if his calling card was anything, he beat the teams he was supposed to beat for over a decade, and it just goes the exact opposite way this year. You beat 2 top 10 teams, you stick it to Boise, Boise's really good, by the way. I mean, it just kept winning games out there in the Mountain West. And you lose to Baylor? I mean, that's a peer that you just can't be losing to.
Oh,
you get blown out by Texas Tech. You can't be losing to those guys. TCU, this is now 2 losses in a row against Patterson, who coached his butt off, and they were so shorthanded. Just not what we've come to expect from OSU, and it leaves you wondering kind of going forward, well, I mean, what is the state of things? I think they've got some pretty good talent.
Right.
But how do I feel about this program going? Are they going to? Is this a thing? Is this going to be the new normal, or are we going to, end up going back to what it's been for the first 13 years under Gundy, where discipline was a big part of what they were, and taking care of their business was commonplace?
It would be incredibly damaging and counterproductive if the coaches publicly really threw the players under the bus. But I think they've got some guys on that roster, maybe way too many guys on that roster, who feel like, well, they always win 10 here, and I'm going to put on the uniform, so we're going to win 10 too. And that, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Even Bob Stoops a few years ago, I remember he had a team that was really an underachiever, and he said, these guys think it's their birthright, just because they show up here and put that logo on their helmet, that they're going to win, and contend for championships. And he said it ain't like that, and it is not like that. And this particular OSU team, I've never seen a team quite like it in regard to its performance here against the better teams on the schedule, and then just to flatten out.
He said we play like a top 20 team some weeks. We play like we're 80th in the country some weeks.
Well, I mean, that last night looked so much like K-State. It was just, except that they got interested once they got 24-3 behind. Then they got interested and tried to make a game of it. But I mean,
since Holgerson became the OC, I can't remember a game where the offense had 10 drives and did nothing. I mean, was it like 50 or 60 yards for the first 10 drives? I've never seen that from an OSU offense. That was weird.
It was another sub 50% passing performance from Cornelius. The run game never got going.
Right.
And when they're down 24-3, then they decide to turn it up a little bit, and then, but it was too little, too late, and so now you're stuck with it. And I just can't believe it, because I remember even asking Gundy after the West Virginia game, what do you say or do during the next couple of days to ensure that you can sustain something close to this level of intensity, ferocity, effort, all of that, and go to 7 wins, is because it's so much better than a 500 record.
Absolutely.
And he said, well, we'll just do what we always do, which is, I'm sure they did do what they always do, but these guys don't respond to it. They just don't.
Year.
It's beyond weird.
Some Cheez-It Bowl or Liberty Bowl or is something not all that exciting.
Here's what happened last night too, Caden, is the OSU people, I'm sure, felt pretty good, disappointed but pretty good with the effort and the performance in Bedlam. And then to come back, to recover from that, and to come back the next week and to beat West Virginia the way you did, and all those fans and kids are on the field with Gundy doing selfies, and the crowd storms the field again, and then all that momentum and goodwill you've got, it's gone. It's gone. And I'm telling you, you watch bowl attendance on the basis of that outcome alone last night. Their bowl attendance will plummet 50% at least. I mean, why are people going to invest their money and their time to travel to watch a team when you have no idea what you're going to get?
All right, TU ends up their
season
on a win, 3-9. And look, the school put out a video on Twitter today. I highly recommend, if you know what the twitter.com is, go find it, go find the video. Just a tribute to the seniors. And I'll say this, I mean, 3-9 is not what anybody over there wanted. And 5-19 over 2 years is certainly not what anybody over there wants.
Right.
But those kids didn't quit on Coach Montgomery.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, they really didn't. And it mattered to those seniors, and the way they performed yesterday against an SMU team that was playing for bowl eligibility. I mean, it's the kind of thing you can be really proud of.
Right.
I mean, that was a very admirable performance.
Yes, it was. It makes you wonder what the season would have looked like had Seth Boomer been identified as the guy in the spring, and he gets all those reps then and in the preseason with the first group. and then has those growing pains in September instead of mid-season. But, you know, his first 3 starts, Seth Boomer completed 35% of his throws. His next 5 to end the season, he completed 61%. He got better.
That's right. He did. No, he absolutely did.
He got better. And
yesterday was probably the high water mark completion
20
percentage.
27.
At least 1 of 2.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, that bumped him from like the mid-50s to 61%.
I mean, he had a 6 of 21 game. Compare and contrast that. I mean, no, they got better. He got better. You know, Zach Smith, the Baylor transfer, has the biggest arm on campus, and so he's absolutely going to be in the mix next year.
Right.
But you got a guy in Seth Boomer who, look, he's now won a couple of games for you.
You know what else?
You've seen him mature as this year went on, no doubt.
Boomer has graduated from just a guy who was bridging the program until Zach Smith gets eligible to now providing for Montgomery 2 viable quarterbacks. In my mind, I think Boomer will come back in the spring because he got better and better and better in season. Who's to say by the spring he can't really stress Zach Smith at that position?
So, all eyes will be on the quarterback position. Let me just put this out there, though. I'm stealing this from a guy on Twitter who said it, and I jumped in. Use Zaven Collins the way my alma mater, New Mexico, used Brian Urlacher. Let him return kicks, throw the ball to him. This guy is, first, he is on special teams. He does a nice job for him. He's a great special teams player.
He's their best player.
And, I agree. He is an NFL guy. Linebacker, you can rush the passer with him. He can you cover guys with, I mean, number 23, linebacker Zaven Collins. I cannot get enough of this guy. I think, is he pre-med, I think he told us?
No,
I may be wrong on that, but I mean, he is like a serious, legit student, but he's also a guy who could play in the NFL. And I want to see Tulsa next year using this guy like New Mexico used to use Brian Urlacher. Let's throw the ball to Zaven Collins, baby. I need more Zaven Collins in my life.
And Collins, who has been a tremendous surprise, and would look completely at home in any uniform in any conference in the country.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
He is conspicuous out there.
OU could absolutely use Zaven Collins.
No question.
Saturday in Arlington.
This
guy's big-time
I think he's
athlete.
destined to play pro football, but it's beyond just Zaven, though, because the defense had a pretty good year from wire to wire. And
Edmiston comes back.
9 guys.
Some key guys there.
Not many. They returned 9 starters.
At corner, 9. Is that right? 9 from yesterday? No,
well,
that's big.
They returned 9 starters, Caden, plus 8 additional guys who started at least 1 game. So they're pretty loaded up.
Whitfield is gone, right?
McKinley
Hill
Whitfield.
And Whitfield in the backfield. Those guys were key. But hey,
Mouton,
that's good, man.
Mouton, who got his first career sack in his final game yesterday. But that's it. Everybody else is back. So the combination of what seems to be a better situation at the quarterback position, plus all that experience coming back on defense, 19's got to look better than these last 2 seasons.
I agree. And I think it will. I think they make a nice step forward. Quickly, here at the end, the rumor is out there that Texas Tech gets rid of Cliff Kingsbury and maybe Dana Holgerson. That's kind of the rumor that's out there.
It's my hope. I hope it happens.
Yeah, us too. To get him back. He'll still be in the conference, but closer to this part of the world and at a familiar spot at Texas Tech. Do you think that would be a really nice fit? I guess the word is that maybe he doesn't get along with some of the folks at West Virginia in the best way, and maybe it'd be time for a parting of ways there.
Dana makes $3.6 million at West Virginia. If Texas Tech really wants him, they're going to go to $4 million to get him. And the buyout on him having to pay to leave West Virginia after January 1st, it's reduced to only $1 million. So I mean, he's an affordable and desirable option for Texas Tech. And then if
let's do it, man.
Absolutely, I would love to see. I mean, he's just
Holiday Inn suite ready.
He's just so air raid Texas Tech.
Yes.
I mean, you know what I mean. He fits like a glove there.
He fits.
Where he kind of. It was a little bit of a round peg, square hole. Anyway.
No, you got it.
At Morgantown, it was.
Yeah, that's right. All right, for Bill Haste and Cade McFarland, that's the rant. That was a lot of fun. Take care, everybody.
We good?
We're out.